My name's Anna. I run a business called The Switcher, which is a marketing and innovation company from Cundletown to the world. So my kids go to St Clair's and Cundletown, and so I'm a local. And my job here today is just to facilitate a great conversation that we'll be having, which is all about earn and learn. And how does that work? And there are ridiculously amazing opportunities for our students right here that I'm going to take a wild random guess that most people just don't know about. These lovely people are going to share their perspectives and kind of do a little bit of a pitch around what that might look like if you or your students, your kids, would kind of like to figure out what that opportunity looks like. So this is one of many, many opportunities. Just a couple of things from me, which will be pretty loose because we're just going to have a bit of a chat. So it's always nice just to kind of be able to do that. Quick hello. We're going to have a bit of a chat with our panellists. A bit of a pitch in terms of who are they, what do they do, and why would they want your students to work with them, and how does that work? The whole aim as well is for us to have a bit of a Q&A. So this is a really good time to ask some great questions like how does that work, or what would they do? Or if they were thinking about studying this, what would they be doing at your place? I've spoken to many people. I've had lots of parents approach me lately who have year 10, year 11 and year 12ers who go, as a parent, I'm not really sure how I could be helping in this situation. This is a really good opportunity to actually have a chat with some local business owners and people who are running fantastic local businesses and try and figure out how can we bridge that. Whether you're a student or whether you are a parent or a carer or a grandparent, doesn't really matter. You are loving and responsible for somebody who will be looking for a great opportunity. So we can have a bit of a meet and a mingle. Dundaloo's provided some yummy food. We don't want, we definitely want empty trays either way. Apparently I've got spaghetti bowl tonight, so I'll be eating my way through that. And then we'll close. The only ask that I have for you all, Anna's crazy drawings, is I'd really love for us to be a bit brave in the session that we're in. Okay, so this is a really open space. If you don't know how that works, ask. There'll be a lot of people, Kyle's here to video this, there'll be lots of people sitting at home watching this later going, oh, I wish that they would have talked about that, or I don't know how that works. So I'm asking you lot to be my brave people, especially you guys as well, to go, this is kind of how this works. So really don't hold back and be nice and open-minded. I have lots of people say, oh, what's a business degree? And if I had to do that, what is it? I'm a marketer by trade. That's quite different to an accountant by trade, but we could both do a business degree and we could both be employed by people sitting here. So this is the time that you ask the big questions and kind of go, how does that work? And then use today as a bit of digging. I kind of want some answers, or how would this work, or how could I advise other people that I know? That would be kind of a really good thing to do. I'm going to hand the mic over to Donna from Turry University's campus, and she's going to give a bit of an overview first before we kind of jump into this, all of you being very brave and asking some good questions, and we'll go from there. Make sense? Good job, team. Over to Donna.
Thank you, Anna. That is loud, isn't it? I just wanted to explain a little bit about the earn and learn concept. We were going around calling this a cadetship, and it wasn't really resonating, especially with students. And from conversations we've had, they want to be earning money. So we thought by calling it earn and learn, it broke it down to a simple idea of being able to earn with one of these employers or many other employers in our local area, earn some money while you learn through your university degree. So ideally, this is a pretty loose arrangement. It's not a formalised scheme like SBAT or some of the other TAFE courses that are linked in through high school. It really is just a concept that once you've finished school, you might be able to work with an employer locally and study university in a part-time format. I just know when my kids were going through university, they were needing money. So if they could have worked a couple of days a week and then had study 3 days a week, fair enough, it was going to take them longer to finish their degree. They'd be studying part-time rather than full-time, but they wouldn't have that pressure of needing money to pay their rent and all the other expenses they had when they left home. So fortunately we're here now, so you don't have to have your students leave, but they still all want to have money, and it certainly helps out at home as well. So the idea is to do a part-time university degree while you work part-time, and we've got lots of local employers that are saying that that could work for them. So that's the concept in a nutshell. And we have been promoting this in lots of different ways through social media and through Career Quip. Last year is really where it started, but we just really wanted to have these guys here tonight to say this is real. There really are people that are making these opportunities happen. We're not making it up. It's not just a concept. It's a real deal. So thank you.
Making sense so far? Yes. It's a pretty cool opportunity. So I figure no matter what happens when you leave school at whatever age that is, and I say that because it doesn't necessarily have to look and feel like 5 days a week anymore, finish in year 12 and then go and get a job. There are people in here that are taking care of students who have lots of different walks of life already and who are getting fantastic hands-on experience as work, in work, with great skills. As somebody who has employed lots of people in my time, the students that show great initiative, that turn up to things like this, that put their hand up, that ask the dumb questions that they're not really sure what it is, they're the people that employers go, yep, I'll take you any day, because you are showing really great practical initiative, and that's what I'm really about. So what I'd really love to open up for these guys as well, I'll pass the microphone along, I'll get them to quickly introduce who they are, and then just give a little bit of a taste on why do they see this as being a really important thing. Overall, there are many, many people in our community wanting great things for our kids and for our students, but from a business and an organisational side, what's happening on your side? Why do you guys see this kind of program, Earn and Learn, being such a big deal? So I'm going to pass the microphone down and we'll hear from the experts and see kind of where their heads are at. First to Adam.
Thank you. Coming through okay, hopefully, audio-wise. Look, Adam Matlawski from Mid Coast Council. I'm one of the leaders in our planning, development and regulatory services spaces. So I have 3 teams who are out in the community, working with the community every day to provide services and to actually help keep our public spaces safe. So we're always looking for locals to join our team, and certainly we're very mindful of skill shortages across lots of our industries. Our planning and land use space is a really key component of making a new mid-coast and us building new structures and making new places for us to live, work and enjoy every day. So from that perspective, we would love to have locals who are invested in our area working with us as they train to actually make the place we all live and enjoy a better place to be. So from that perspective, you know, we're a big supporter of bringing, you know, graduates, apprentices, trainees, cadets through our system. And we're a large employer, more than 30 different business arms doing different things across the business. So if you've got a student or someone who's interested in a particular vocation, certainly Mid-Coast may be an opportunity for people to come and do things locally. So, thank you.
Testing, here I am. Mid-Coast Council is one of the biggest employers in our entire region, right? Like, there's a lot of people. And I feel like I'm just going to put the elephant out there, which is working for council, as it might have been a very long time ago, is absolutely not the case anymore. There are so many, to your point, there are so many different types of jobs that are available across multiple departments. Incredibly highly skilled people that come from here, that have come from afar and have made the Mid-Coast their home. I think we kind of forget that sometimes, that yes, it's Mid-Coast Council, but a huge employer of lots of very diverse skills and people, right through from youngies all the way through. So thank you.
1,100 employees nowadays, so
that's a lot
big
of people.
organisation.
Yeah, big organisation. To you, Jay.
Yeah, my name is Jay Mongan. I'm a partner at Johnson & Mongan Accountants. So our business helps small businesses, medium businesses, individuals with all their tax obligations, basically. So we've got a staff of 18 And yeah, a number of our staff have studied and worked, myself included. That's where I started 20 years ago, straight out of school. So sort of see firsthand what the experience is like to study and work and be able to earn some money while you're doing your degree. It's been very important for a lot of our staff.
Awesome. And the thing that you all might not know about working in accounting is it's becoming a very, very, very rare area of expertise. So accountants in Australia are, it's actually quite crazy. I said to somebody the other day, you will nearly be able to write your checkbook. For what that looks like to a student, that's bing, amazing. But I say that because they're usually a humble lot, all university qualified, and don't talk about their profession in great detail, but I can guarantee you that they are in very, very big demand. I work with really big multinational companies, and CPA is one of my clients, and so the peak body that looks after, you're either a CPA or a CA, they are crying out for accountants to work in lots and lots of different things all across Australia. So it's not only what would that be in Taree especially, as well as the mid-coast, the opportunities would be endless to kind of, if you could get that experience here, I think that would be a pretty amazing thing. Sorry, I had to say that, Jay, but I'm like, see, the humble accountants don't say that, but it's not what it was 20 to 30 years ago. Kyle, looking right at you. Over to Rhonda.
Thank you. My name's Rhonda Footerleib. I am also an accountant. You can tell tonight we are desperate for people who are qualified in accounting in this area. The fact that there's 4 of us in the room. The big thing with accounting, I run a practice called Essential Tax and Accounting Services. I'm a sole trader and I've been in business for about 12 years here in town. I started out with one of the big 4 accounting firms in Sydney. So I got lots of training, went away to uni from high school in Orange, had to live in Sydney and eventually came back to a country town. But I have qualifications in all sorts of areas. So accounting is not just about tax work. I'm a registered company auditor, which means I go out and do the audits on some of the biggest companies we have in this area. And that is a very different skill set to doing tax work. We also, in our area of expertise these days, can be financial planners because it all goes hand in hand. So it's not just about doing tax returns for people. You can actually specialise in various areas, and registered company auditors are actually scarcer than accountants and hen's teeth. They tell me with an RCA these days that the average age is about 66. The industry is retiring, so when Anna talks about writing a cheque for yourself, being a registered company auditor is a career path that, if you like jigsaw puzzles, is absolutely perfect for someone who can put various things together and come up with the right answer. The skill set is the same for whether we're doing tax, audit or financial planning effectively, the pathway through. But being able to study locally, being able to use the university here and then be able to work a couple of days a week for someone means that you come out of your university degree at a much higher level than the people who've just been to uni and not worked. It's really important to get those basic skills, and it helps with the study. When the lecturer says the debit's on the window side of the auditorium or the lecture theatre, you look at them and you go, oh, what? But when you're actually doing debits and credits as part of your everyday work, you understand a lot of your course a lot better. So it's actually a really good way to get yourself through your courses as well. I've got a staff at the moment of about 5. I've got 2 more starting, and they're all starting 3 months apart. And most of them have no experience when they start, but we're a firm that trains as we go through, trying to help them get through. They're all doing various courses at university, at TAFE, trying to upskill them and get them to the levels they need to be. But it's important, and it's an industry where we are desperate for new staff coming through. So if any of the students that are coming through have any interest in business, it's a very good career path to take.
I love that you said about the jigsaw puzzle, because of all the terrific accountants and people who work in finance that I know, incredibly creative, like really good creative thinkers, because they can look at the numbers, figure out what the business story is, and then kind of go from there. So I worry sometimes that people go, oh, I'm not great with just numbers. It's so much more, and I think that's the danger when we just talk about studying accounting or whatever that is. These people live and breathe in business and organisations. That's what they do for a living. Imagine being able to have your resume with, I've completed my studies and I have 4 years of work placement already done and I've been working. Any employer, would you guys not be looking at that to go, thank you, already done the training, off you go, here you go. For the students, that opens up another whole conversation around what pay am I on, what opportunities do I get, what does that training and development look like, because I've already done a lot of that. What fantastic conversations to be having when you've just finished your course, as opposed to kind of starting from scratch. So it's pretty cool, awesome. And over to Graham.
Thank you. Graham Nash from Nash Solutions. My practice out at Wingham is basically an accounting practice, but we're a chartered firm and we concentrate on business services. So the compliance work has to be done, so your tax returns, your general accounting, but we focus on the upper end work that comes out of that, and also with financial planning. I think Rhonda covered a lot of issues there that are common to most practices, which are all good. What we've found is that the main constraint to growth in this area is actually recruitment, and it has been that way for decades really, because there's usually a flow of students out of the area into Newcastle and Sydney. So recruitment and staff shortages are a major issue, and those shortages now we're seeing in a lot of other industries apart from our own. And for that reason we've always trained, and I'll talk about that later on. Traineeships, students doing part-time study or remote learning while they're actually working, and it has the advantages that Rhonda mentioned before. So this move for us into a earn and learn cadetship type approach is just a simple morphing of what we already do and what we already support. So that's the reason why I'm here. Local students to stay local. And in terms of staff shortages, I for one, I refuse to outsource overseas. I think that's going to be detrimental to Australia in the longer term.
Because there's a lot of that, right? There's a lot of, in your fields, there's a lot of accountants coming in. They have been well trained somewhere else, and in they come. I think that's a really big statement.
It's not just that. It's the work actually gets sent overseas to get processed.
Well, that too. Yep.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a migrant as an employee if they have the skills, especially if they're from an English-based background, such as you find in India or other countries where they actually do chartered studies. So.
And I think it's a really sensible thing to talk about, because, you know, you're not just competing with students here, you're competing with students around the world who are desperate to move to Australia, because we live in a beautiful country with plenty of opportunities compared to other countries. So it's kind of like, it's competitive. It's the conversation that we don't often have with students at school. You all know this. Pretty different world when you start working, and it's on a whole different level. I look at 1, 2, 3, 4 people sitting here going, I would be training your students whilst you are earning, getting to either live at home or first foot out onto living by yourself or with friends or whatever. All of that kind of stuff in probably the comfort of being at home. The world has changed, as we all know, so much. It's not what it used to be. You need to make smart decisions around your study and your career choices in a way that you can actually manage that. Cost of living is actually a really big important thing to put on the table, particularly for students. So if there are opportunities being raised by lovely people like these and a whole bunch of other amazing employers as well in our community, I really genuinely think that's a good conversation to be having at home or with your career advisor or with whoever, in terms of, I hadn't probably thought about that before, But these people raise a lot of really, really good points, and there are huge opportunities. So thank you. I just wanted to stop for a second and see, are there any questions so far? Great. Love good questions. This is a very safe environment.
We've talked a lot about students, and I guess that is important. But there are a lot of people, like myself, who find themselves in circumstances where they need to retrain and find employment. And I was wondering if there were programs like cadetships and things where they could do the same thing as the younger people.
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure these lovely people do. Where do we stand on what that looks like for mature age students or people who are looking to retrain as opposed to kids coming out of year 12?
Yeah, it's my understanding that there's no age limit on a traineeship. So if you can find the right employer that you're happy with, that you think you can form a relationship with, then you can actually sign up and do a Cert 2 or a Cert 3 at TAFE, or through some of the other training organisations, which would then tick off the boxes for a traineeship. If you can get mature age entry into university, there's no reason why you can't start at uni and actually work and study at the same time.
Makes no difference to me at all how old anybody is, as long as they have the drive to want to be in the industry. It's all about whether you are the right person for the job. And then it doesn't matter, as long as you're interested in the industry, it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah, I think these guys have sort of covered it. Yeah, it doesn't really matter age or just being the right fit for the industry. And
Awesome. Adam?
Look, I agree. Sometimes it's an advantage. There's the life skills that come with someone that really knows what they're wanting to do at that particular point of their career, or reshaping their careers. Really, really important. I know from an equal opportunity perspective, all of local government, and certainly Mid Coast Council, it welcomes people wanting to come forward and do things at whatever age. And certainly I know of some personal success stories where people have retrained, repositioned what they want to do midlife to then go forward in their careers. So absolutely, everyone's in agreement. It's absolutely the right candidate presenting with the right desire should be equally open to that cadetship, traineeship opportunity.
One final point to add to that is it's probably, the more important point is probably how long you see yourself in the industry. Like if you're just going to come and go because you want to learn another skill, you might find it more difficult to get a start than if you think that it's a long-term career choice. You know, even if that's only 15 years or 20 years,
Well, from
not 40.
From my point of view, I'm actually a graphic designer, website designer by trade. I did that before I had the children, but then I had the children. I have homeschooled the children they're now in TAFE. I'm now at TAFE doing business medical, just to get my sort of training back in. But what I want to do is marketing and to use those skills for promotion. So, what I'm finding is there's not a lot of opportunity for for seniors to enter that field, and I'm going to have to retrain anyway because IT, those kind of things, outdate really quickly. So, yeah. Absolutely.
And that's where studying the business degree, I'm going to take a guess, having spoken and worked with lots and lots of people in finance world, is that you can either come in via accounting or you can come in via business and specialise in lots of different things. It's a lot broader than kind of when you're sitting in year 12 going, I have to pick that course. Donna and I were chatting with somebody today, incredibly bright, has chosen a course, doesn't really know what they're going to even do at the end of that. This is why these conversations are so valuable in terms of what do I do? What kind of skills, not necessarily just the work, but the problem solving, as Rhonda was talking about, and creative accounting, like we all kind of go, creative accounting. Really required every single day in businesses and organisations all around Australia. And the marketing piece is no different. Yep. So it's one degree can branch off into a million pathways. Your job, if you're thinking about reskilling or choosing one of those courses to study is to figure out what kind of jobs come from that. What does that entail? What does that look like? What skill set do I have? What do I need to do more of? I'd love to actually hear your opinions on that, guys, in terms of if you are considering a degree, and I'm going to just, for the case of this conversation, in accounting or in business, because these are all business people, not necessarily just with accounting hats on. They're business. What are the things that you look for in terms of whether it's mature age or straight out of school when people are thinking around that kind of course and training? What are some of the skills that you go, I really value this from people coming in? What does that look like to you guys? I'm putting them on the spot. This is what we want to know.
If I'm sitting opposite someone talking to them and looking at them for a role, I want to know that they can talk to me. I want the communication skills. So as far as the degree goes, it gives you the academic base. But it's the soft skill stuff that we need, because you're talking to other people in our industry all day, every day. So you've got to be able to communicate. So it's the soft skill stuff. The academic stuff comes with the degrees or with the TAFE courses or whatever you're doing for your study. But it's those soft skills. It's being able to look me in the eye and have a conversation and not look at the desk the whole time, basic interview techniques. But that's important because you will be talking to people as you progress through things.
No mumbling, no on your phone, direct eye contact. Some
All
of that
of
stuff
that.
sounds so basic, but wow. Yeah.
I'd absolutely agree. Engaging with other people, being able to have conversations, and great listening skills is what I'd be looking for. And then when it came to us, was recruiting today, and that's the exact, that's what I was seeing in candidates. So makes it difficult when you've got a lot of people presenting with those kinds of soft skills, and then you can look at some of the technical components to support it. But I don't think you could have said that any better. It's about someone who is willing to be part of what you're building with your business or what you're trying to serve, the services you're providing the community in our particular space in local government. So yeah, really important.
Awesome. That's 2 out of 4 leading with soft skills and communication. Look at it go.
Yeah, I guess these guys have touched on that, but obviously because you're communicating constantly, phone, emails, all that sort of stuff, which obviously you build a lot of that on the job, and then problem solving, no two jobs are really the same. There's always something out there that you got to sort of think about and work a bit creatively to sort of problem solve. So those sort of problem solving skills are going to be important as well.
I think that what goes hand in hand with that also is an ability to do, or willingness to actually learn enough so that you can actually give the right advice and ask the right questions. Because at the end of the day, you're representing the firm every time you communicate with someone else, with a client or what have you. So you have to present the best foot forward in terms of that. On the other flip side, though, in terms of the actual studies, I think if you're talking about our profession, as Anna said, you can study a broad range of subjects, but there are core subjects, and I would suggest that anybody thinking about coming into a business services accounting type profession or a finance profession, you would be looking to take and make sure you tick off those subjects that would get you entry level into the professional year studies with the chartered accountants or the CPA, because that will guide you as to what the basic skill requirements are.
Love it. Do we have any other questions before we keep going? That was a great question before. Well done, you. Any other questions from anybody? Hello? Back stalls? Yes.
Adam, you were interviewing today.
Yeah.
I just wondered, do you have a lot of vacancies at the moment with council? Are you an employer as well that can't get enough employees?
Here, take one.
Do we actually need the mics?
Just
we
for the
don't need
video
it.
to record
Oh,
it. I'll
right,
just
okay.
pick it up.
Absolutely, we're constantly in the market at council for a range of roles. In our space, in the land use planning and development assessment space, where we're talking about the degrees that are offered through some of the providers here, so urban and regional planning, there's an industry-wide skill shortage across New South Wales. There's state government initiatives currently out there where they're looking to promote more work in the regions, looking to fund to local government cadetship type positions, and so we'd hope that we might be successful in some of that work in looking to provide some local positions in the near future. And certainly anyone that was wanting to know anything about the range of studies and careers in local government, certainly find us tonight and have a chat. Attend Career Equip later in July, because we'll have a number of representatives from our business here at or council here at Career Equip. It's important that you ask the questions. We'll bring people to you so that you can get that direct feedback and see where it goes. But environmental science, engineering, project management, accounting, all of those careers, all of those studies are all available locally through businesses who are providing service direct to business, and certainly from the services council provides to the entire community. All those skills are required, and you're right, Donna, there is an ongoing need for more of this skill, and certainly there should be a focus about facilitating that in the regions. That's where the concept of studying locally and working locally is brilliant. We've all got different life experience with those things. I went to Sydney to get a traineeship, did my work in Sydney, and have come back locally later in life, and I certainly would have loved the opportunity to have had that same career path, but have done that locally and still lived in the Great Mid-Coast for that entire time. So certainly anyone that's keen that wants to have a chat after this session, or certainly look at Council's webpage, careers page, for information about the types of jobs that are out there, and come and have a chat at Career Equip when that's on.
Raising a very good point there. There are many, many, many people who have left and come back, because this is a truly spectacular place. I'm no different. I went to Chatham High. I did my marketing degree in Bathurst. I went to work in Sydney. I worked overseas. I went back to Sydney. And you know what? Desperate to get home to Taree to raise my children and then thrive in my career now. There's just so many different paths these days that if you're just thinking such a linear approach, that's not how it has to be at all. I have a curly question for you lot. If I'm sitting out there, or if I'm listening and I go, well, how much money do I actually earn? What does that look like? Because I can't help but kind of go, yeah, I had to work in cafes, and I'm pretty sure the beer money was pretty tight when I was at uni trying to support myself and pay for a mobile phone, which was a brick at the time, and fill up my car and all the fun things. What does that actually look like? You don't have to give a specific thing, but it would be really actually helpful. We're talking about earn and learn. What is that? What does that look like for in your kind of world? Again, I'm putting them on the spot. Who wants to take the mic? I'm going Jay.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that.
Let's have a real conversation about it. What does that look like?
I guess it's an interesting one. I know, obviously, in our industry, very high demand. So as you build your skills, it can be a very rewarding career. I guess, and just depending on, that's probably the main thing, is it just, as you build your skills, it will, the money does follow that, because there is a demand, whether that's locally or you're going, Newcastle, Sydney. There's plenty of opportunities to make a worthwhile career out of it.
Because I feel like, and I'm going to get all of you to answer this question, but I feel like there's some pretty big jumps in your area. Some professions have to work for quite some time and their pay increases. But in your field, if you've got great skills, you're amazing at the job and you're committed, you can absolutely rise through the ranks, as I've seen it. Thoughts, team? What does earn look like? And let's not forget, your first year, you know nothing is the grounding point, but what does that really look like? What would you be employing somebody? Part-time, full-time, don't know, they're doing lots of things. Let's chat numbers. You can hand the mic and have a think about it.
I have recently employed at $60,000 a year someone who has a Cert 4 in accounting from TAFE, has worked in a couple of other places around town in admin roles, and is doing a diploma in accounting at TAFE at the moment, and starting salary with me was $60,000, because we are having to pay that at the moment to get people with no experience. That has probably jumped 15 to 20% in the last 12 months for starting salary for full time. From there, when we go up in value, as you increase your skills every year in accounting, the pay goes up with it. Once you have completed your professional qualifications with Chartered Accounting or CPA, my guess at the moment would be that if you are qualified with a few years' experience, you're probably looking at $100,000 a year, basic. And then as you go up year on year after that, it gets a lot better. When you're as old as Graham and I are, not as old as Jay, it's very different because it's a skill set that not a lot of people have these days.
Thank you for your honesty. I know these are difficult questions, but I feel like these are the questions that parents and students want to know about, so I'm asking.
I would add that that probably over the last 6 months there's been a substantial increase in expectation as to what people are worth, and some of that is being pushed up from the bottom in terms of other relatively unskilled jobs that the federal government especially is subsidising. So that is tending to become the minimum wage, I would suspect, over a period of time, and that will flow through the industry. The other comment that I would make is that when you start out, as we rightly said, your skill set is very low. But think about it, if you're actually working at the same time as you're studying, by the time you finish your degree, you've got that many years' experience under your belt, whether it's part-time or full-time, you still get exposure to work and you still get experience. So you come out, or you graduate from your degree, and you're actually worth a lot more than somebody who's studied part of full-time and comes out, because they're basically only a trainee to us. They know nothing in terms of practical skills. So at the end of the degree, it might take an extra year or 2 years to get through, but you'll be earning a lot more than what a graduate would be that studied full-time.
Such a great point. Adam, thoughts?
Certainly in our industry it varies, but I think if we reflect on someone who'd finished their degree, turned up for a qualified position as, say, a town planner or someone in our industry, they'd be looking at, in the mid-90s as a wage, or the 90,000 wage just starting out. Thinking about the options that exist around apprenticeships, traineeships, cadets, the like, there's a range under that would probably start at halfway that band and move up. But I guess part of what needs to be considered with those lesser paid roles through that training component is that the training is actually facilitated and some of that cost, and in some instances, if possible, most of the cost is met by the employer, and certainly that's where the advantage is in taking that. And so that lower starting wage is your opportunity to, I guess, potentially, as in the model that's being spoken about here, still live at home and contribute, but then picking up on your point, get yourself to a point where when you then go to the full market, you're actually much more marketable, you've got experience, and you've got the skills that you won't necessarily learn through the structured learning process, through the training, that will actually be really marketable for you in getting a role in the area of passion.
Might I add that if we take on students and push them through, we don't want to see them leave at the end either. Why would we spend that time training them and then let them slip off to give the benefit of that training to some other practice?
This is the great conflict, isn't it? In come the students, no matter what age, they're going to be well trained and supported, earning money. For these guys, that's like the worst result ever, because they've given so much investment of time, heart, head, probably a bit of family counselling along the way when you're a business owner and the rest that goes with it. And sometimes people do leave. But the risk and hopefully the reward is that people do stay. But yeah, we're not going to ever solve for that right now because people's lives change and they need and do different things. But it goes without saying, and one of the reasons why, I wanted to ask the question about the earning is that if you had a student in Taree earning a first year, whatever that looked like in terms of one of your organisations and your roles, the living expenses here, you are significantly more ahead than if you are that student being in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. We all know that, but these are sometimes the practical conversations that seem to get left out of some of these conversations in homes at night time. What is your rent? How much toll have you paid? Anybody paid a toll in Taree today? No. When we first moved home, my 3-year-old said, "Mummy, wait, don't leave the car." I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "You haven't paid for the parking." I said, "We're good here, darling. We're good." Just tiny, tiny little things that... but it's all those tiny, tiny little things that when you first start your role... I started in an advertising agency on $21,000. Blows my mind as to how I actually survived in Sydney on that wage now. Like, I'm like, how did I actually eat and clothe and rent and all of that kind of stuff? But appreciate the honesty around kind of what that first level looks like, because they do rise quickly in these kinds of professions. Not all professions do that. That's quite different in different things that you're studying or wanting to get into. Just going to pause. Any other questions so far? Gemma. Yeah.
Urban and regional planning. What does that look like for students? It's often it sounds like a great concept, but what's the day in the life of a town planner? What are some projects through council that they might be working on, or just a bit of clarification around what that degree, what the job looks like for that degree?
Oh, I guess at its core, it's everything that puts a roof over our heads at night and during the day, where we're going about our work or we're going about our private lives. So it's really, really probably one of those concepts that not a lot of people get a view of so young in life. And I think people who come to the town planning profession actually are about making the places that they live in better and trying to get the great outcomes in terms of, well, if I'm living somewhere, what do I want that to feel like? And if I'm going to work somewhere, what do I want that to feel like? And hey, when I spend my private time outside of that, what's that environment look like for me in terms of the place and what are the opportunities that are available to me in terms of how I want to socialise or those kind of things. So from day to day, we basically, it's a bit of a mixed role in terms of it's lots of conversations with the public, it's lots of conversations with business. Businesses come to us looking to build new buildings or to expand on their buildings to actually facilitate their growth. And so in terms of the opportunity to make a mid-coast a better place, the town planning, land use planning roles is actually quite critical. And, I think we probably don't understand how influential that could be in terms of where we go. So you need to have skills in reading plans. You need to be able to understand interpreting legislation. There's a whole raft of skills in that space, and a lot of it's negotiation as well. It's working with internal teams to understand what the right outcome might be for a particular building. Lots of different specialist areas in our business all have a different view about what the right outcome is. The community has a different view about what the right outcome is, and in the centre of that is a business who's trying to get an outcome to grow or to, make what they're doing worthwhile moving forward. And there's a delicate balancing discussion through that, and hence that soft skill thing and the ability to communicate, negotiate, and listen is really, really important. So, yeah, really good role. We've got Michael from the council's here in that role today. He's here if anyone wants to have a chat and discuss that through the course of this as well. And we will have some planning staff here again. I'll plug Career Equip again on that day to talk specifically to that. We've had people who through TUC on staff who are training in the degree as well. So certainly we're looking to get some more of that happening.
Can I just add for the Taree peeps that development applications and DAs and town planning. Anybody been to the rec ground lately and seen the new lights at the Big Oyster there where you turn out? Yeah, so it's like, oh, what's that for? Well, that was part of a DA that was planned through for fig trees. The whole entire road at the back of Chatham was changed because there was a negotiation with the developers on if we would like this to go ahead. Love the negotiation part. This is what we'd really love to see. We would love to see some wins for the community, and we'd like to open that up, and this is how that all joins with this. So I think it's a bit like the accounting conversation before. There's so many more facets to other than just looking at some plans and ticking boxes and approving. It's so much bigger. And if you're curious about what those kind of roles are, these are the people that you ask, what do you do every day? What does that look like? What are you working on at the moment? You know, they're really good things that if you come at it from I'm keen to understand what that could look like for me, you will get real honest answers around that in any of the roles. Doesn't matter what you're studying, but we need to foster more of that curiosity about what does that actually look like? What do you do? If you are somebody who loves being outside all the time, well, you might struggle in some roles that are more office-bound, people-focused. That means that maybe you could go somewhere else. But there's so many. I just feel like nowadays work is not just one thing. It's just so many different facets, particularly in business, when you are people-facing all the time and solving people's problems. Doesn't matter what it is. Any other questions? Great question, Gemma. Any other questions? No? I would love to ask for you guys that if you had a couple of minutes pitch on here's what I want. This is like what I would really love to do. For anybody that's listening and watching and here today is to, if you could find some people to earn and learn with your organisation, what does that look like and what would you want to see? And we know that there's a little level of desperation, but kind of in a good way for these people. What does that look like? What do you want? Here's your opportunity.
Here's my business pitch,
Go in for your pitch. Go, Graham. What do you want?
What do I want? I want somebody who can develop through and get past the compliance work stage and be able to join in with advising clients on a broader business services level or a financial planning level. Our practice is based around offering a holistic level of advice. It's really life cycle advice. So it starts with their business or their income, helps them to actually grow that to grow wealth, and then how to preserve that and into retirement through to succession planning stage. So I'm looking for somebody who's happy to progress through a staged career to get to an advisory level. We obviously have interactive software to assist with all that, and we take a collaborative approach with the clients. So our advice is very client focused, which is really great because that helps you to develop a relationship with the client. You scratch below the surface. I'm not just preparing your tax return. I'm not just preparing a set of accounts so that you can get the bank happy. We're interested in growing the business and developing the relationship. And I think one of the advantages that small practices like ours have is that employees get the opportunity to get early exposure across a broad section of sort of advice. When you go to Sydney or Newcastle, you get into a larger practice, you become specialised very, very early. And I think Rhonda would be able to attest to that in some extent. So I'm looking for somebody who can progress. And that rate of progression really is going to be determined by the aptitude of the actual candidate, the person involved. The quicker you can master a level and move up, the more valuable you come to us, the more you're worth, and you get remunerated accordingly. I know we talked about wages before and there is award rates, but they're sort of going out the window because of other factors at the moment. We've always paid well over the award. We've always paid somebody what they're actually worth. So learn, apply, you'll get the reward. Keep on moving. So there's a fairly clear career path with us. What else was I going to say? And at the end of the day, when you get to our level, I've put probably 25 years back into the industry, back into small business through various small business organisations, and I'm still putting back today through Business New South Wales. I'm on the council there. So that creates another outlet for reward for yourself on a personal level, apart from knowing that you've done the right thing by the client and the client has grown and the client's had a successful life and career. The industry is moving towards virtual chief financial officer type roles and family office roles. We're into that. So it's about more than just the business. It's about the family and it's about the family welfare and the family wealth. I do have a couple of other quick comments to make that sort of came up when we talked about advantages for the students in doing this. And I would put to you that studying here on a part-time basis or a remote basis and living at home will give you the same education that you can get anywhere else across the industry, and you'll have a better experience doing it. And you'll do it in a positive living environment because you'll be able to stay at home, you'll still be able to go to the beach after work. And I don't know how many students or employees that have been studying that I've counselled over the years and mentored over the years who have wanted to go to Sydney and Newcastle. Some of them have gone and some of them have changed their mind and stayed simply because when you sit down and start looking at the maths about the additional costs of going versus the additional salary you might get, it's a clear-cut decision. It's really not worthwhile going at the end of the day. And as Hannah said, a lot of us, including me, have come back home in a sense, and you tend to do that through your lifetime anyway. The other point that I would make is that if you get into a large practice in Sydney, one of the big four for example, they're very competitive in terms of your career progression, to the point of almost having competitive toxicity, I would say.
There's a lot of
So unless you really
There's a
want
lot
to play
of
the
burnout.
politics, it can be a bad environment to be in, whereas a smaller firm, you develop relationships with the people you work with. It's a very small environment. You develop relationships with the clients, and it's just such a nicer place to be.
Thank you. Good pitch. Go, Graham. Over to you, Rhonda. What you got?
It's hard to follow that. It's really much of the same as what Graham has said. Someone coming into my practice will start with some very basic things to do with accounting work for clients. As they learn on the job, depending on how many days they were working, they will then progress through to something that's a bit more difficult and a bit more difficult and stretch their brains a bit more. We work on the basis you've got to learn something new every day, because if you don't, you get bored. I've been in the industry more years than I care to remember, and I'm still learning stuff every day. It's not a profession where we don't continue to learn. People come in, we don't put them in front of clients on day one. That's a bit scary for them and for the clients. It's a trusted relationship we have with clients, so we need to build people's trust with the client side of it back with the staff, and that comes over time with being exposed to them to clients slowly. And we treat people hopefully very well so that we don't make it too scary, but you know, we do push you out of your depth to actually expand and grow on an ongoing basis. And then the education side kicks in and you start to go, oh, I understand that. It's very much a case of if you show you can do it, you get more stuff to do. You get out there, you start communicating, you get to know the people, you build those trust relationships, and slowly we just let you start to run your own race and manage your own workflow, get your own clients that are in the practice, but you start to be responsible for them. And that is very rewarding. There's people I've been dealing with for 20 odd years now, and Graham and Jay would be the same. And you start the conversation, how's your kids? How's your grandkids? And then we get into the business side of things. Because you've known them, you know their life, you know their business, and we are trusted by them to give them the right advice. So if you came into work for me, you'd start at the very bottom of doing things, very basic stuff, and as you master it, you move through the ranks. And the quicker I can move you through, the easier it is for me.
Good one. Don't see a lot of doctors studying for 7 years to walk straight into an ED department either and start fixing. Everybody has to start at the bottom. It's actually a really lovely life lesson in that, which is a really, really good thing. Very humbling for us all. Jay, what you got? Come on, Jay.
God, if I could just cut and paste what these guys have said, because we're three accountants that run 3 firms in regional towns. So, but you know, yeah, as Rhonda said, start at the bottom, you work your way up, you prove you do what you can do, and keep building your skills. You know, we've got, you know, in our practice, we've got staff that have done that, myself included. Like I worked full time, studied part time, straight out of school 20 years ago at the practice where I am now, and then progressed to, you know, more client facing, build that relationship with those clients, and some of those clients that are still my clients today, you know, close to 20 years later. So, yeah, you just sort of move through and more client facing and more responsibilities and things like that. But yeah, you've got to be able to work as part of a team. We've got a number of staff, as we all have, that, you know, and yeah, build that client engagement and your skills as you go. And it can be very rewarding, yeah. But, you know, I've got one of my staff's been there for way long, like 50 years. She's been there since she left school, and she's nearing retirement. So, you know, I'm about her 4th different boss, I think, at the practice. So, certainly, some of those relationships she's got is go back, yeah, as long as I've been born, probably, or longer. So, certainly, you can have those long-term relationships that can be very rewarding within our industry.
Thank you. Over to Adam.
Thank you. Certainly, probably broadly, Midcoast is always looking to train youth to bring them through to be part of, I guess, making the 1,100 strong workforce functional through generational change. And so you've often got people leaving the business, and you need to bring that through. So broadly across the whole business, we're always looking to use the apprenticeship program and the graduate program to bring people into the business to fill lots of roles. Probably personally, in terms of our land use planning and development assessment space, we're looking to create a pathways program to bring in someone who can start assisting us today with the core functions to deliver better services to our customers who want developments approved. And part of that is bringing someone in who can do the grounding, be a great assistant to all our staff, but at the same time build the skill with them, have them going through the training so that they can replace us as we go through our own careers. As a leader in a business, we're always trying to effectively make our current position redundant to grow someone into our position so we can take the next step. And I think that pathways concept, certainly for us in the land use and development assessment planning components of Midcoast Council, is really critical, because we mentioned earlier there is a key industry-wide staff shortage, skills shortage in development assessment and land use planning, and we're both carrying vacancies in our current team, and we'd be looking to grow our own, use someone who's connected to the local community to make a difference, to actually build what that community will look like for the next 10, 20, 30 years. I guess the decisions that are made today about what land gets developed will be realised in the next 20 years, and that's the key thing. We need people to understand the local context, and what better way to do that than use people who are part of it already.
Awesome. Well said. We haven't touched much, only because of who our amazing organisations are, but obviously there's agribusiness, there's business, there's obviously urban and regional planning that we've talked about, but there's lots of other different opportunities. So please don't take today's conversation as being just specific to these guys. They have put their hands up to say, hey, we would love to be part of this, and there are opportunities at our organisation, but the program in general as well has lots of different opportunities. So the best thing there is to chat with people and chat with Donna and Gemma and career advisors and lots of different people who are all very connected into the pathways to kind of help you through. I think what would be really great is for us to mingle, eat amazing food and chat, because a lot of those conversations really kind of come through from there. So I just wanted to hand it over to Donna to go, was there anything else that you wanted to share with the group or team or anything in terms of some immediate next steps? Otherwise, nothing would make me happier than for people to be chatting and kind of going, hey, I would really like to know more about that, and pick their brains, because they're here and they're very busy business people who often get stuck doing great work but aren't open to community to be asking. So over to Donna.
Just a couple of things I wanted to say really quickly because I know we've been sitting for a while. I just wanted to really say that when we first opened here at Tara University's campus, which was only 2021, so not that far back, the biggest spike of, I guess, enrolments were from people in their 30s. So yes, we're talking about students here, and you tend to have that concept that it's got to be young people. But to your point, like our quickest responders were people mid-30s, mid-career really, that were looking for that change. So it's not just for high school students. I'm very happy now that we've got 55% of people are under 30. So I'm so pleased that younger people are taking up that option. But by far the quickest response at the beginning were people in their 30s. And yes, I wanted to add that while we're talking about accounting and business and urban and regional planning here, other people that were keen to be in the room were people that were looking for engineers from James Strong, local land services are looking for agribusiness, as Anna mentioned, but also there's a whole ream of people that in the allied health area that are looking for psychologists, everything that fits under the allied health banner. So that is a huge demand as well, and there's a real need for that locally. So there are other employers that are out there that are interested as well. So it's not just these careers, there's pretty much any career.
Sorry, can I ask, if someone was interested in agriculture, are they going to the employer to find out more, or can they come to you at Tara University campus and you'd be the facilitator? How does that work?
Yeah, I'd be really keen to talk to anybody that's interested in agriculture, because local land services, like everyone, are looking for employers, and they've put a scholarship with us that we can offer financial support to a student straight away that enrolls, say, to do agribusiness with UNE. Pretty much as soon as they're enrolled, they can apply for a scholarship that will get them through that first year, and that's a $5,000 scholarship in that case, and they get that paid every quarter. So it gives them money as well as the practical work with local land services. They are that keen for staff. So that's extra money.
So, but on a general thing, like talking about this, would someone come to you, like Tara University campus, and be like, I heard about this, I'm really interested, and then you go, okay, yes, these are the people, or would they go to Jay and be like, I heard about it and I'm interested in accounting? Do you know what I mean? No, they go to the business.
Either way, but if they came here, we've often, like Gemma knows how many inquiries we get from employers all the time that are like, have you got someone that can do this? We see vacancies all the time. So certainly you're welcome to go directly to employers. That's totally fine. But this can be a central spot as well. We do have a jobs board on our website where we put up jobs where employers have said, I need this person, can you help me get the word out? And we put that up on our website.
And we've also done, like, if we get specific requests, say, for example, an accounting or something, we can shoot an email to all our accounting students and just say, there's an opportunity if anyone's interested. So we can kind of filter our students by what they're already enrolled in, as well, to help.
The allied health conversation is a really good one. So even though there's not anybody here, there are a ridiculous amount of opportunities in the Mid-Coast for allied health. But say between Donna and I, we would absolutely be able to talk about that, even though I'm not in allied health and neither's Donna. But we know a bunch of pathways.
Point with
So, and that was going to be my question. I've got a town planner on the end and a psychologist here. So how does psychology look as a cadetship? Because traditionally that would have been a university degree and, going on from there. But how does that look as a traineeship, apprenticeship or a cadetship?
I'd say it's the same conversation. The rules have changed around you go to uni and then you start your job. This is becoming more and more normal that you just hybrid it like most people do. It's not like, it's a bit like, yes, we all used to go to the office once and now you don't do that anymore. It's kind of the same with careers. So I would say the most important thing for the psychologist and the town planner is to ask questions and say, I'm thinking about what is there available, because these amazing ladies know a whole bunch of often funding and opportunities that you just won't know, but they do. So the community connections, really, really important. Ask the question. I don't think enough people are asking the questions. Be brave and open-minded and ask the question.
I was going to suggest that traditionally solicitors have used a lot of admin people through their practices who go on to qualify to become solicitors. So if you're looking for a start to get employment while you actually study psychology, if you get into a large psychology practice or an allied health area where there's an admin role that you can fill because they're generally fairly unskilled and you come up to speed really quickly and do the job, you then get exposure to the types of issues that the psychologists are dealing with on the ground. You might not see the content of the file, but you get a feel for what they're actually doing, which may then help you with your studies as well.
Yeah,
and the decision as to whether that's the career for you.
Those entry-level positions in allied health, they're now called allied health assistants. It's a full workforce of people who are studying, who are learning, who aren't even studying, but who want to get into different speechy, OT, psychology, social work. There's a whole bunch of amazing jobs there, and you've got to start somewhere, and that's okay. It's all good. You can start, or then you can study, or you could do both. There's heaps of different pathways. Yep. I'm going to wrap it up and let people start mingling and eating. Please be eating because there's really yummy food. And I'd just like to say on behalf of all of us, thank you for being our panellists, and thank you for sharing openly and honestly, probably some stuff that you weren't expecting to. But I really appreciate that, to kind of give all of us a bit of an understanding of what does that look like in terms of reality and practically. And thank you all for being here. It's cold and it's the middle of winter and I know that you'd rather be at home. So thank you for being brave and coming along today and expanding some different thoughts and opening up some different pathways to this conversation around earn and learn. So we really appreciate that.